Hello again, and welcome back to Scouching's 2019 NHL Draft recaps. Today we're looking at the Florida Panthers, and going into the draft, it was almost a foregone conclusion that the Florida Panthers were drafting Spencer Knight. Now when it comes to goaltenders in the first round, I like goaltenders that have measurable track records of stopping a lot of pucks for years leading up to the draft. It's just too much of a risk for me to really jump into a goaltender unless there's something I can really look back on as a track record. Someone like Andrei Vasilevsky, who had been to 3 under-18 championships and been good in all of them, as well as been good in his club play, was someone that I would have taken a swing on in the first round. Spencer Knight, to me, kind of doesn't make me feel super comfortable. He played behind one of the most remarkably talented junior teams ever assembled. Last year he wasn't particularly notable in any level of play, and to find him with a significantly high save percentage you'd have to reach all the way back to when he was 15 years old. So this is a very, very big gamble for the Florida Panthers at 11th overall. It could pay off. If they're signing Sergei Bobrovsky, they better be sure, because it is going to be quite a while before someone like Spencer Knight can play NHL minutes. Goaltenders need a lot of time to stop a lot of pucks, play higher and higher difficulties of hockey before they can really play major NHL minutes. If Bobrovsky doesn't turn out to be the guy in Florida and they have to rush Spencer Knight, I'm not super confident in that plan. Now, I have seen a lot of Spencer Knight, and he brings a lot of athleticism and a certain calmness to the game that a lot of goalies don't seem to have. He never really panics no matter what the situation is in front of him, and I think that's respectable. It's just he doesn't stop a tremendous amount of pucks, and at 11th overall, I just feel like it's a big, big risk, especially with names like Newhook and Krebs on the board. It just really didn't strike me as the best pick. At 52, though, the Florida Panthers took a swing on a guy who started slipping a bit in Vladislav Namestnikov. He had a huge first half of the year, slowed down during the back half when Flint as a whole improved, which is a bit curious. His skating is really, really great. He's a good transitional defender, but his passing decisions will need a bit of work. He wasn't really putting enough mustard behind his breakout passes, but I think that's something you could easily coach moving forward. The tools are really nice, and I think there could be a good player here for the Florida Panthers. Then at 69, the Florida Panthers went completely off the board and drafted an overage defenseman, John Ludvig. And I've asked a lot of WHL people about this pick because I had no idea who John Ludvig was, and they felt the same way. This is a reach to say the least, and I'm not really sure what the Florida Panthers see in him. I've tried to really make an analytical case for this pick, and I really don't know what to say. So Florida Panthers fans, I'm sorry. This just doesn't strike me as the best pick, but I could learn to eat those words over the next few years. At the 81st overall pick, the Panthers took Schwindt, who does have some analytical things that really paint him in a positive light. He's a hard-working winger, he's got some nice size. He pushed goal rates positively by about 40%, which is really promising. Again, this is a player that I felt could have been available later, but he's a decent even-strength producer, and he's a good Will C pick. I won't write this one off, and it'll be interesting to see how he does as Mississauga improves. Then at 106th, the Florida Panthers took Carter Berger, and I absolutely love the swing on this player that they took. Carter Berger is one of the older players who's been undrafted once, but all that being considered, I absolutely love what Berger brings to the game. A lot of skill, great skating ability for a defenseman, a cannon of a shot. If his passing ability and his passing decisions can take a step, I think there could be a tremendous offensive defenseman here for the Florida Panthers. I absolutely love what I see with my eyes and what's on paper with Carter Berger. At 136, the computer boys in Florida appear to have made their pick in Henry Verbinski, a player who bounced around a few different teams and leagues this year, but was too good for the BCHL and really seemed to hit his stride in the WHL this year. With the Seattle Thunderbirds, he put up really nice involvement rates and production rates, and I think there could be a really interesting pick here, especially at 136th. Then, one pick later, the Florida Panthers took another forward, Owen Linmark, from the US national team. I never came away super impressed with Linmark, but he's a hard worker, a nice physical forward, but I'm not sure of a real high upside here. I probably would have taken a swing on someone with a bit more offensive upside, like a Igor Serdiuk, but Linmark did have a nice physical presence on the ice, and if he can become a physical contributor at the next level, then that would be an interesting pick in this range. Then at 168, the Florida Panthers took a pick that just made me feel really good. Greg Morellis is a center who's been undrafted twice, and every time I've watched him, I just see consistent progression in his game. I don't know if he's going to be an NHL player one day, but he's a hard-working two-way player who had great on-ice metrics with a pretty good top unit in Kitchener this year. I really like Greg Morellis. I thought his line mate Joseph Garefa was a more interesting higher upside swing, but as a bottom 6 center one day that could bring a bit of offensive upside and just works hard every day, Greg Morellis is a really interesting prospect for the Florida Panthers. Then at 199th, the Florida Panthers took an interesting swing on an overage player from the Seattle Thunderbirds who played with Henry Verbinski this year. Matthew Wedman stuck out a bit on my analytical tracking, and his profile is kinda interesting for a late round swing. He improved goal differentials when he was on the ice for Seattle by 117%, which is really notable. And for a D+2, considering some of the other D+2s that went in this draft, it's about as good a bet as you can make. He has an interesting profile, and it'll be interesting to see how he does now that he can jump straight into the AHL with the Springfield Thunderbirds. So if you watch scouting reports, we're kind of taking the same rating system and applying it to the team's draft haul as a whole. The number is going to represent the overall potential of a team's draft crop, and the letter indicates the likelihood of achieving that ceiling for the draft crop as a whole. With the Florida Panthers, I'm going to have to give them a 1F here. Spencer Knight is a huge risk at 11 from my viewing. I'm never ever sold on goaltenders that don't have an absolutely sparkling track record in the first round. I just don't see tremendous amounts of upside in a 903 goaltender with the talented team that he played behind. He had a great under 18, and he does bring a mature mental approach to the game that I think could take him a ways. It's just going to be very interesting to see how he grows over the next few years. He will probably require a lot of patience, but it's a huge swing to trade up and take that player at 11th overall. And beyond that, guys like Kolyachonok and Berger are two defensemen who skate extremely well and I think have really high upsides. It's just a big risk to see if either of those players are going to reach that ceiling. And then you look at names like Linmark and Ludvig and Schwindt, and there's just a lot of hard-working players that earned a pick, but I'm not really certain of upside. If a few of these players hit their stride and capture their best level of play, this could be a really good haul for the Panthers, but there was a lot of risk in a lot of the picks they took this year. So that's it for the Florida Panthers. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins. If you liked the video, you could click all the buttons you see below me so that you never miss another one. If you really like the show, you can support us on Patreon, where you get access to Discord servers, spreadsheets for drafted and undrafted prospects, as well as plenty of other goodies. Or you could pick up some merchandise from the Scouchwear shop. All the links are in the description below. So that's all for this one, and I hope you join me for the next video where we profile the Pittsburgh Penguins.